I had always wondered what it would be like to have a sibling. Growing up as an only child, it was just me and my parents. I sometimes imagined having someone to share my secrets with, someone who would understand me in a way no one else could. But that thought always felt distant, like a fantasy I couldn't quite touch. I never expected that my curiosity would lead me to uncover a truth that would change everything I knew about myself. It started one unassuming afternoon when I decided to take a walk through the park. The weather was perfect, just cool enough for a light sweater, the sun shining through the trees in those warm, golden patches. I'd taken this same walk hundreds of times before, but that day something felt different. As I passed by a small cafe at the edge of the park, I saw her. The woman was sitting at a table by herself, sipping coffee, her face partially obscured by a book. I almost didn't notice her at first. But something stopped me, a feeling I couldn't explain. I had to look again. My heart skipped a beat. She looked exactly like me. From the angle at which she sat, her features seemed almost identical to mine. Same sharp jawline, same dark hair pulled back into a loose ponytail, same elegant posture. Even her eyes, though I couldn't see them fully, seemed to carry the same deep, quiet expression I knew too well. I told myself it was a coincidence, that I was imagining things. But the closer I walked, the stronger the feeling became. I passed by her table and glanced back. She didn't notice me, too absorbed in her book, but I caught a glimpse of her face, and it was like looking at a reflection of myself. I stood frozen for a moment, staring, trying to process what I was seeing. Was it possible? Could she be someone I knew? Someone I was supposed to know? But I didn't have a twin. At least, I thought I didn't. I had asked my parents about it when I was younger, but they had always brushed off the idea. "No, honey, you're our one and only," they'd said with that warm smile they always wore when they wanted to distract me. And yet, here she was. I felt a strange sense of urgency building inside me. What if it wasn't just a coincidence? What if there was something more to this? My mind raced with 1,000 questions, none of which made any sense. I couldn't stay there, watching her like a stalker, so I forced myself to walk away, but the image of her face lingered in my thoughts. That evening, after a long day of trying to forget what I had seen, I found myself sitting at my desk. I opened my laptop, a small, innocent distraction to clear my mind. But it was as if the universe had decided to push me deeper into this mystery. I opened my inbox, and there it was, an email from an unknown address. The subject line was simple: *, you have a twin. *. I blinked, thinking it was spam, or perhaps some kind of cruel joke. But as I opened the email, my heart began to race. The message was short, almost to the point of being absurd. *, I know you're confused. You've been kept in the dark for too long. Your twin sister is out there. I'll show you the way, but you need to trust me. Your life is in danger. *. I stared at the screen, every muscle in my body tense. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, unsure of what to do. Was this a prank? A sick joke from someone who knew how to mess with people's emotions? I hovered over the delete button, but something stopped me. A small, unexplainable feeling deep inside me told me not to delete it. I had to know more. I typed a quick response, asking who the sender was, but I didn't expect an answer. Minutes passed, then an hour, but nothing came through. I almost convinced myself that it had been a fluke, that I was overreacting. Until, just as I was about to close the laptop, another email popped up. This one was even more cryptic. *, the person you met today at the park. She's not just a coincidence. She's someone who shares your blood. Look at your birth records. Look at the photos your family has hidden from you. You have been kept in the dark for too long. *. I could feel my pulse quicken. My breath caught in my throat as the words echoed in my mind. Look at your birth records. I sat back in my chair, the weight of the words sinking in. I couldn't fathom what this meant, but I couldn't ignore the sense of urgency either. I wasn't imagining things. This wasn't a mistake. I'd always known my family had secrets, small things they didn't talk about, strange moments in our past that they avoided like the plague. But I never questioned it. Until now. Suddenly, everything felt wrong. I had to know the truth. And as I glanced at the time on my phone, I realized it was already past midnight. I grabbed my phone and dialed my mother's number. The line rang, and I let it go on longer than usual before hanging up. I needed answers, but something told me she wouldn't give them to me, not easily. The conversation I had with her earlier that week echoed in my mind, her dismissive tone, her lack of interest in the very questions that had haunted me for years. I didn't know what I was looking for yet, but I knew I had to find it. And I had to find it now. The next few days passed in a blur. I couldn't shake the nagging feeling that I was on the verge of uncovering something massive. The strange email, the woman at the park, everything about the situation felt surreal. But there was no turning back now. I had to find out who this person was and why they were so convinced that I had a twin. I began by revisiting the email. Each time I read it, the words seemed to weigh heavier. Look at your birth records. Look at the photos your family has hidden from you. Hidden? What did that even mean? My family had always been open, at least I thought so. But as I started looking back, I realized that there were gaps in the details they'd shared with me over the years, small things that, when pieced together, painted a different picture. That evening, I went to my childhood home, hoping to find something, anything that could give me a clue. I'd always thought of my parents as the perfect couple, loving, supportive, and protective. But as I stood in the hallway, staring at the familiar walls lined with old family photos, I felt an overwhelming sense of unease. Every picture, every smile seemed like a facade, hiding something deeper. I couldn't shake the image of the woman in the cafe. I thought about her constantly, the way she looked so much like me, the way she seemed almost familiar in a way I couldn't explain. I had to know if there was any truth to what the email suggested. So, I started with the most obvious place, the family albums. Pulling down the first dusty photo album from the shelf, I flicked through it slowly, scanning the pages filled with memories of birthdays, vacations, and holidays. But as I turned to the next page, something caught my eye, a photo I had never seen before. It was a picture of me as a child, standing beside a little girl I didn't recognize. Both of us were laughing, our arms around each other's shoulders. The photograph was old, black and white, and the little girl in the picture looked just like me. I froze. My heart raced. The resemblance was uncanny. This girl looked like a younger version of myself, but I had never seen her before. Who was she? Why had I never been shown this photo? I reached for the photo, my fingers trembling as I picked it up. The back of the picture had a single name written in faded ink. Asterisk Sarah. Asterisk. I dropped the photo as if it had burned me. The name echoed in my head, Sarah. That was the name from the email. The twin I didn't know I had. This wasn't just a coincidence. It couldn't be. I spent the next few hours going through every single family album, my eyes scanning each photograph with increasing desperation. And then, hidden in the back of one of the albums, I found more. Another photograph of me and Sarah, taken at what looked like a family gathering, but no one had ever mentioned it. There was no record of this event, no recollection of her in any of my family stories. My mind was spinning, trying to piece together what this could all mean. I couldn't ignore it any longer. I had to confront my parents. The next morning, I called my mother. Her voice on the other end of the line was light, casual, as if nothing was wrong. "Hi, sweetie. How are you?" she asked. "Mom," I said, my voice tighter than I expected, "I need to ask you something." There was a brief pause on the line before she responded. "Of course, what's going on?" I didn't know where to begin, so I blurted it out. "Who is Sarah?" There was an unsettling silence. I could hear her breathing, just slightly out of rhythm. "Sarah," she repeated. "What do you mean?" I could feel the walls coming up. "The little girl in the photo. You remember? The one I found. You've never told me about her." "Sweetie, I think you're mistaken," my mom said quickly, her tone too soft, too careful. "There is no one named Sarah in our family." I shook my head, even though she couldn't see me. "Mom, I found the photo. I found the name. I know there's something you're not telling me." She hesitated, and when she spoke again, her voice had shifted. "You don't understand. It's not something you can know, not yet. Not until you're ready." "What do you mean, ready?" I demanded. My heart was pounding. "I need answers. I need to know who she is." I heard her exhale slowly, a long breath, like she was weighing something, struggling to decide. Finally, she spoke in a whisper. "Come home. We'll talk, but not over the phone." The chill in her voice sent a shiver down my spine. I wasn't ready for this. I didn't know if I was ever going to be. But I had no choice now. The truth was out there, waiting for me, and I had to face it. As I drove home, the weight of my mother's words lingered in my mind. I kept telling myself that she had to have a reasonable explanation. There had to be a simple explanation for why she had kept this from me, why my family had kept this secret for so long. But deep down, I knew the truth wasn't going to be simple. It wasn't going to be easy. I arrived at my childhood home just as the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the front yard. The house was quiet, the kind of quiet that felt unnatural, heavy with anticipation. I walked in, bracing myself for whatever my mother was going to say. She was sitting at the kitchen table when I entered. The moment she looked up at me, I could see the tension in her eyes, the anxiety that she had been trying so hard to hide. Her hands shook slightly as she gestured for me to sit down. "Mom, I don't understand," I said, sitting across from her. "Why didn't you tell me about Sarah? Why didn't you tell me I had a twin?" She looked at me for a long moment before finally speaking. "There are things about our family's past that you're not ready to know. Things that would change everything." I leaned forward, my voice shaking with emotion. "I don't care what it is, Mom. I need to know. I need to understand." She took a deep breath and glanced away, as if she was trying to find the right words. "Sarah isn't just your twin," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. She's been kept from you for a reason. A very important reason." I sat there, frozen, trying to process her words. There was so much she wasn't saying. My mind raced as I realized that everything I thought I knew about my family was a lie. This wasn't just about a missing twin. There was something much bigger at play, something dangerous. And I wasn't sure I was ready for what came next. The tension in the room was suffocating. My mother sat across from me at the kitchen table, her hands clenched tightly around her coffee mug, her eyes avoiding mine. I felt like the walls of the house had closed in, as if the air itself had thickened. I could hardly believe what she had just said. Sarah wasn't just my twin. She was being kept from me for a reason. Something bigger, something dangerous. But what did that even mean? I could feel my heart pounding in my chest as I stared at my mother, waiting for her to explain. But she stayed silent, as if the words she needed to say were trapped somewhere deep inside her, and she didn't know how to release them. It took everything I had to stay calm, to keep from demanding the truth right then and there. "Mom," I started, my voice trembling with a mix of fear and frustration. "What aren't you telling me? I need to know about Sarah. Why didn't you tell me about her? Why keep her a secret for so long?" She sighed heavily, and I could see the conflict in her eyes. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, she leaned forward, her voice low and hesitant. "Your father and we made decisions when you were born. Difficult decisions," she began, her gaze fixed on her hands, her fingers tracing the rim of the mug in small, anxious circles. "Sarah was always meant to be protected. From the moment she was born, she was different. There were people who wanted to use her, people who wanted to control her. We had to make sure she was kept away from everyone, including you. It was the only way to keep her safe." I blinked, trying to process the gravity of what she was saying. Kept her safe? From who? Her eyes met mine then, filled with a sorrow I hadn't seen before. From people who would do anything to manipulate her, to make her part of their world. "Your father and we were trying to shield both of you in the only way we knew how. But Sarah's life has never been normal. She's always been involved in things, dangerous things." The words felt like a punch to the gut. My mind was spinning as I struggled to make sense of it all. Dangerous things? What kind of things? My mother hesitated again, clearly battling with herself, but finally she spoke. "Sarah was never just a regular girl. She's been living a life you wouldn't believe, undercover for a secret organization, a government agency that operates in the shadows. They trained her, shaped her into someone else, someone she never asked to be. It's been a constant battle, a fight for survival. And we had to keep her hidden from you. We couldn't risk you getting caught in the crossfire." I felt my stomach drop. The weight of her words felt unbearable. A secret government organization? Undercover operations? This sounded like something straight out of a spy novel. But I knew my mother wasn't one to tell stories. She was being honest, but she was also holding something back. Something even more terrifying. "And Sarah?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. What does she want with me? Why is she reaching out to me now? For a moment, my mother didn't answer. She looked as if she was searching for the right words, or perhaps trying to protect me from something too dark to explain. But then, she spoke, her voice heavy with regret. She wants to know you, she said softly. She wants to connect with you. But there are things she can't explain yet. Things she's been forced to hide for so long. She's always known about you, but she couldn't come to you before. She's been in danger. In danger? My mind reeled. From who? What kind of danger is she in? My mother's face twisted with an expression I couldn't quite place. Fear, guilt, something worse. She stood up suddenly, walking over to the window and staring outside, her back turned to me. Sarah's life has always been a double life. The people she works for, they don't care about her family. They don't care about anyone. They only care about the mission. And that mission is something bigger than both of you. I felt my throat tighten. Mission? What mission? Mom, you're not making any sense. She turned back to face me, her eyes wide with an intensity one hadn't seen in years. I'm telling you this because you need to understand. If you get too close to Sarah, you'll be in danger too. There are people who will stop at nothing to keep her and you away from the truth. That's why we've kept you in the dark for so long. You're safer this way. I stood up, my chest tightening with panic. But I need to know the truth. I can't keep living like this, not knowing what's going on. I need to find Sarah. I need to understand what's happening. My mother's face softened, and for a brief moment, I saw the woman who had raised me, the woman who had always protected me. But the truth in her eyes was unmistakable. You don't know what you're asking for. You don't know what's out there. I could feel the weight of her words sinking in, but I couldn't let this go. I couldn't ignore the possibility that my twin, the person I had never known existed, was out there, living a life of danger, and I had to find her. My twin needed me, whether my mother thought I was ready or not. Mom, I'm going to find Sarah. I have to, I said, my voice firm, despite the fear gnawing at my insides. Her expression faltered for just a moment, and then she stepped forward, placing a hand on my shoulder. I know you think you're ready, but you're not. Please, don't do this. But it was too late. The seed had been planted. I had to find Sarah, no matter the cost. The following days were a whirlwind of uncertainty. I couldn't get the conversation with my mother out of my mind. What had she meant by the mission? Who were these people who would stop at nothing to keep me away from the truth? And why had my twin, my flesh and blood, been forced to live a life I couldn't even begin to understand? I needed answers, and I knew exactly where to go. I opened the email from the mysterious sender again. This time, there was something different. Attached was a file, a picture of a woman with dark hair, standing in front of a nondescript building, wearing a suit that seemed out of place for the location. The email subject was short and to the point. Asterisk, Sarah's last known location. Asterisk. My breath caught in my throat. This was it, the first real lead I had. I clicked on the attachment, and there she was, Sarah, but not as I had imagined her. She wasn't the scared little girl in the photographs. No, this was the woman my mother had described, the one who had been living a dangerous life, a life I couldn't comprehend. I stared at the picture, my heart pounding in my chest. This was real. This was happening. The night after receiving the email, I couldn't sleep. My mind raced, turning over every piece of information I had gathered so far. There was so much I didn't understand, so much I couldn't even fathom. My twin, Sarah, living a life I could never have imagined, hidden from me, from everyone, for reasons I still didn't fully grasp. I couldn't shake the picture from my mind. Sarah, dressed in a tailored suit, standing outside a building that looked like it had seen better days. There was something in her eyes, something determined, focused, as if she was always on high alert. She didn't look like the girl I had imagined, the one I might have grown up with. She looked hardened. It was a look that came from surviving in a world where trust was a luxury, where every move could be the difference between life and death. I turned over the details from the email again. The sender had left a cryptic note at the bottom of the message. Asterisk, Sarah's last known location. She won't stay in one place for long. Asterisk. The urgency was clear. If I didn't act fast, the trail might go cold. I knew I had to find Sarah, But the more I thought about it, the more I realized just how unprepared I was for this. A secret agent, undercover for a government agency? The words felt foreign to me, like something out of a spy novel, not the reality of my life. And yet, everything pointed to it being true. I couldn't help but wonder if my mother had kept more from me than just Sarah's existence. Had she been protecting me from something bigger, something even more dangerous? And if so, why hadn't she prepared me for this? I needed to talk to Sarah, but how? I had no idea where she was or how to reach her. I could feel the weight of the unknown pressing down on me. Was this a mistake? Was I diving into something I couldn't control? Or was this the only way to finally uncover the truth? The next morning, I made a decision. I couldn't wait any longer. I had to take the next step, even if it meant stepping into a world I didn't understand. I had already begun my search. I wasn't going to stop now. I grabbed my coat and headed out, the cold air biting at my skin as I walked down the street. My mind was spinning, but there was a sense of resolve I hadn't felt before. I was determined to find Sarah, to learn everything about her life, no matter the cost. The first stop was the address in the email. It was a small, unremarkable building on the outskirts of town, tucked away in an industrial part of the city. The kind of place no one would think to look twice at. I parked my car a few blocks away and approached on foot, trying to keep a low profile. There was something about the place that set my nerves on edge. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. As I neared the building, I saw a figure standing by the entrance. A woman. She had dark hair, just like Sarah, and was dressed in a sleek black jacket, blending into the shadows. I froze for a moment, my heart skipping a beat. Was it her? Could it really be Sarah? I hesitated, unsure of what to do. Was this a trap? Had someone set me up to walk right into danger? I was about to turn around and leave when the woman's gaze met mine, her eyes sharp and calculating. She didn't look surprised to see me. In fact, she looked almost relieved. Before I could make a move, she spoke, her voice low and calm. "You're looking for Sarah, aren't you?" I froze, my breath catching in my throat. It was like she had read my mind. I stammered, unsure of how to respond. "How do you know that?" The woman took a step forward, her eyes scanning the street behind me before she lowered her voice even more. "Because I'm the one who sent you the email. You got questions and I've got answers, but I won't give them to you unless you're ready to face the truth." Her words sent a chill down my spine. Asterisk, face the truth. Asterisk, what did that even mean? And who was this woman? She couldn't have been Sarah. She was too calm, too composed, but she was clearly involved in Sarah's life, somehow. Are you with her?" I asked cautiously. The woman's lips curved into a small smile, but there was no warmth in it. I still am in a way, but that's not important right now. What matters is that you understand what you're getting yourself into. Sarah's life, it's dangerous. And if you think you can just walk into this world and walk back out again, you're wrong. I swallowed hard, feeling a growing sense of dread. What kind of danger are we talking about? Is she dead? The woman cut me off, her eyes narrowing. "No, not yet. But you're not going to like what comes next. This isn't just about Sarah. This is about you now. And if you want to see her again, you need to understand that there's no going back from this. There are people looking for her and for you." I felt a cold sweat break out across my forehead. "What do you mean, looking for me?" She took another step closer, lowering her voice even more. "You're connected to Sarah now. You've seen too much. They're going to want to know why you're involved, why you're poking around in things that don't concern you. And trust me, you don't want to find out what happens when they start asking questions." I took a step back, my mind reeling. This was real. I wasn't in a spy movie. I was in something far more dangerous than I had ever imagined. "I don't care," I said, my voice shaky but resolute. "I need to find Sarah. I need to know the truth." The woman studied me for a long moment before nodding slowly, as if she were assessing whether or not I truly understood the gravity of the situation. "Fine," she said, her voice softer now. "But know this, you're not ready for what's coming. I'll help you find Sarah, but once you do, there's no turning back. You'll be in it for good. Are you sure you want to do this?" I didn't hesitate. "I'm sure." She gave a slight nod, then turned, and began walking toward the building. "Follow me. I'll take you to Sarah. But be prepared. It's going to be a bumpy ride." I followed her, my heart pounding in my chest. What had I just stepped into? What would I find at the end of this journey? I didn't know. But there was no turning back now. I was already in too deep. The next few days felt like a blur, an endless stream of half-finished thoughts and unanswered questions. I had made my choice. I couldn't back out now. But the reality of what I was stepping into was sinking in faster than I could handle. After meeting the mysterious woman, whose name turned out to be Agent Blackwell, I had no choice but to follow her lead. She took me to a safe house on the outskirts of the city, a place that was as nondescript as it was secure. The kind of place you wouldn't even notice if you walked past it 100 times. Sarah had been there recently, I was told. But when I arrived, there was no sign of her. The safe house was quiet, too quiet, the kind of silence that made the hairs on the back of your neck stand up, like you were being watched from the shadows. "Where is she?" I asked Blackwell, trying to keep the panic out of my voice. "She's in the wind," Blackwell replied, her voice as calm and emotionless as always. "It's part of the job. You'll understand soon enough." I had no idea what she meant, but I was learning to trust her words, if not her motives. She was the only link I had to Sarah, and right now I had to follow the trail, wherever it led. If I wanted to find her, I had to keep moving forward. For the next several days, Blackwell kept me in the loop. I didn't know how much of what she was telling me was true, and how much was part of a larger game she was playing. But one thing was certain: Sarah was more than just my twin. She was a person with secrets, with a life that was so far removed from anything I had ever known, it was impossible to comprehend. I spent my time learning what I could about her, about what she'd been doing, where she'd been. Blackwell revealed fragments of information, snippets of conversations she had overheard from Sarah during their brief encounters. Sarah had been deeply embedded in some kind of covert operation, working against forces that were beyond my understanding. But no matter how hard I tried, there were always pieces missing. There were too many things I didn't know, too many things Blackwell refused to explain. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being kept in the dark on purpose. Blackwell's eyes always held something I couldn't read, but something that suggested she was more than just a handler or a mentor. She was hiding something, and I didn't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing. Still, the question remained: why had Sarah disappeared? And what had happened to her? Where was she now? It was late one evening when I got the call. The phone rang once, twice, and then silence. I knew who it was before I even picked it up. "Sarah!" I whispered, my heart racing. "Is that you?" Her voice crackled over the line, faint but unmistakable. "It's me." My pulse spiked. This was it. Finally. After everything. After the waiting, the uncertainty, the fear, I was talking to her. "Sarah, I've been looking for you. I need to know what's going on. I need to understand." "I know." She cut me off, her tone urgent. "Listen to me, and listen carefully. What I'm about to tell you can't leave this room. You don't know who's listening, and you don't know who you can trust. They'll be watching you." I felt the weight of her words settle like a cold stone in my stomach. "Who? Who's watching me? What's happening, Sarah?" Her voice grew softer, more cautious. "There's something you need to understand about the work I do. It's not just a job. It's a war. A war between powers that you can't even imagine. And you've been drawn into it. They know who you are now, and they know you're looking for me." I froze. "What do you mean, they've been looking for me? Who are they?" There was a long pause, and for a moment, I thought I might lose the connection entirely. When Sarah spoke again, her voice was tinged with an edge of fear. "It's bigger than you think. My mission, it was never just about me. It's about you, too. Your life, your family, it's all connected. And if you think you're just going to walk away from this and return to your old life, you're wrong. They will find you, and they will use you to get to me." I felt like I was suffocating. The walls were closing in around me, and I could hardly breathe. "I don't understand," I whispered, my voice barely audible. "Why? Why is all of this happening?" "Because they know we're twins. They know that I have someone I trust, someone I would protect. And that makes you a target. I never wanted this for you, but now that you know, there's no going back. You're in this, whether you like it or not." I felt the chill of her words, but a part of me was desperate to know more. What do I do now? How do I find you? You don't. Not yet. Not until I say it's safe. Trust no one. And above all, don't trust Blackwell. She's not who she says she is. The line went dead. My world spun. Blackwell had been the only link I had to Sarah, the only person who seemed to understand the world Sarah had been living in. And now Sarah herself was telling me not to trust her. But why? The room felt too small. The walls were closing in, pressing in from all sides. I had to act fast. But what did Sarah mean by they and target? And how was I supposed to survive in a world that I wasn't even sure I belonged in? I paced around the room, trying to calm my thoughts. There was no time for panic, no time for hesitation. If I was going to find Sarah, I had to trust my instincts. And right now, those instincts were telling me one thing. Blackwell was hiding something. The question was what? I had to confront her, face the truth, and find out what was really going on. But there was no going back now. I had already crossed the line. I picked up the phone and dialed Blackwell's number. My hands were trembling, but I pushed the fear aside. When she answered, her voice was as cold as always. What do you want? I need to know the truth. Everything. Now. There was a pause, then a soft laugh on the other end. You really think you're ready for that? You think you're ready to know everything? I didn't answer. I couldn't. I'll be there in 10 minutes, Blackwell said and hung up. My heart raced. Was she really going to tell me everything? Or was this another game she was playing? The clock was ticking. The answers were within reach, but so was the danger. And the more I uncovered, the more I realized that nothing, absolutely nothing, would ever be the same again. The minutes dragged on like hours. I could hear my heart pounding in my chest, each beat growing louder, as if trying to warn me that the moment of truth was rapidly approaching. Blackwell's words kept echoing in my mind, each one a threat I couldn't escape. Trust no one, but how could I trust myself? I had never been in a situation like this before, and the stakes were higher than I ever imagined. By the time Blackwell arrived at the safe house, my mind was racing. I'd gone through every possible scenario in my head, weighing the chances of betrayal, the cost of the truth. But I was out of options. I had to know what was going on, even if it meant losing everything. The door opened with a soft creak, and Blackwell stepped inside. Her eyes were colder than I remembered, more guarded, like a mask she was struggling to hold up. But there was something else in her gaze now, something that told me she had known this moment would come. She wasn't surprised to see me standing there waiting. "Did you think you could run from this?" she asked, her voice low and controlled. "Did you think there was a way to escape the truth?" "I don't know what the truth is anymore," I replied, my voice shaking with the weight of everything I'd learned. "But I need to know. Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me about Sarah?" Blackwell's lips curled into a faint, almost imperceptible smile. She stepped further into the room, closing the door behind her. "I've been waiting for you to ask that," she said, her voice colder than ice. "You see, there's something you don't understand, something you've never been told." I didn't wait for her to finish. "What? What is it?" The mission wasn't just about Sarah. It was about both of you. She paused, letting the words hang in the air like a weight too heavy to bear. "I didn't just find your twin. I found you too. And now it's time for you to make a choice." I felt my legs weaken, and I stumbled back against the wall for support. My mind couldn't process the words. Asterisk, she didn't just find Sarah. She found me too. Asterisk, how was that possible? "You see," Blackwell continued, her voice growing darker with each word, "the truth is, Sarah and you are not just random twins. You were chosen. Both of you. Your birth, your lives, were part of a larger plan, one that goes back decades." A chill ran through me. "What do you mean? Chosen for what?" "For the operation. For the war we've been fighting behind the scenes. Your family, your parents, they were never who you thought they were." The room seemed to spin around me as I processed her words. Asterisk the operation. The war. Asterisk nothing made sense anymore. "Your parents, your whole life, were engineered," Blackwell said, her eyes gleaming with something I couldn't place. "Sarah was taken from you at birth because she had the skills, the mind, to be part of this secret agency we've built. But you were kept close. You were the backup. The insurance. I wanted to scream, to deny everything she was saying, but the truth was undeniable. The pieces of my life, Sarah's disappearance, the strange coincidences, were falling into place. Asterisk, I wasn't just a bystander. I was part of a larger game. Asterisk. But why? I whispered. Why me? Blackwell's smile grew wider, more sinister. Because, my dear, you have a gift. You're not just any person. You were trained, even if you didn't know it. You were conditioned your whole life to be a part of this, to be part of the revolution we've been planning. I felt sick to my stomach. Trained, my whole life had been a lie. Every conversation, every seemingly innocent interaction, it had all been part of a plan I had never asked for. Sarah, I started, my throat dry. She doesn't know any of this, does she? She doesn't know you've been controlling us both. Blackwell didn't answer right away. Her eyes flickered, just for a moment, before she nodded. She knows, but she doesn't understand the full extent of it. And now that she's out there, she's a liability. She's a threat, but so are you. Her words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. My whole world had turned upside down. You have two choices now, Blackwell continued, her tone cold and final. You can join us, become a part of the operation, or you can go back to your life. But if you choose to leave, I can't guarantee your safety. Or Sarah's. The threat was clear. The agency wouldn't let me walk away. Not after everything I had learned. I was trapped. But then, in the midst of the swirling chaos, something inside me snapped. I wasn't going to let this woman control me. I wasn't going to let my sister's fate be decided by someone like her. I won't join you, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. I won't be a part of this. You can't make me. Blackwell's expression darkened. You'll regret that decision. Before I could say another word, there was a loud bang from the hallway, followed by the sound of heavy footsteps. I turned in alarm, just as the door was thrown open. And there, standing in the doorway, was Sarah. Her face was cold, steely, like the stranger I had met that day on the phone. But there was something else in her eyes, something like recognition, like she was seeing me for the first time, truly seeing me. You should have listened to me, Sarah said, her voice low and commanding. You never understood the gravity of what was happening. But now you do. And in that moment, I realized the truth. Sarah wasn't just my twin. She was the key to everything, the key to the agency's plans, and to my survival. Together, we would have to decide our own fate. The days that followed were a whirlwind. Sarah and I, despite the secrets and the lies, had found each other again. But the world we now lived in was not the same as before. We were no longer just sisters. We were agents in a world that demanded loyalty and sacrifice. Blackwell had vanished, her mission complete, but the shadow of her influence loomed over us both. As we stood together, side by side, I knew that our journey was far from over. We had to face the consequences of our choices, of the family we were born into, and of the lives we had to build in the ashes of everything we thought we knew. The truth was out there. And now, Sarah and I would face it together.